It's musings with Mo. She's on a roll, serving big thoughts with a side of soul. One part snark, two parts strange delight, streaming live from the edge of night. It's musings with Mo.
Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, and we are in full squirrel mode. I have story time for you guys. I was in no state to even pick out or the bandwidth to do anything newsy this morning. So welcome to the Squirrel Stream. Basically, I'll just talk about what happened last night and yesterday, and we'll just have fun and hang out because, story times are fun too. And honestly, it was either story times or we wouldn't have a stream. Like, I have barely done the minimum amount of putting on a new bra and a new shirt and lightly, putting on mascara and eyeliner. I was in no mood today. But basically, if I'm gonna have weird stuff going on, at least I can make it funny and tell you guys stories. That being said, Tammy, it is such a hard thing to mourn someone that was suffering so much on this earth, but missing them too is just, it's a weird thing to grieve. It is a very weird thing to grieve. That being said, as you guys know, Now, I had to start doing mammograms early because of family history on both sides of my family. And the last time I'd gotten one was several years ago, and they only took one side of each, like a mugshot of each boob. Apparently things have changed, or I don't know, my Skittle boobs have intensified because I'm pretty sure she got 873 pictures of my tatas, which, I'm sorry, ma'am. And, there's nothing I like a TSA pat down that my insurance pays for. And, rubber gloves squishing my glands as, any other chick does. That being said, she's like, okay, now relax. Now, I don't know if anyone else struggles to relax when a piece or part of them is, essentially in a vice grip. She's like, okay, relax your shoulder, now take a deep breath. And I'm like, if we tested for testicular cancer the same way we do for breast cancer, ish would change. We would have a technological revolution, in medical diagnostics, yesterday, if testicular cancer involved, getting the jewels smushed and then relax your shoulders. Not to mention that I get to wear this good sticker that was like, oh, well, you have a mole. Yeah. And then they're like, okay, now hunch over, sweetie. And she's like, okay, we got to make sure you don't have any wrinkles. And I was like, I'm sorry for the Roman curtain sort of, ness of my boobs. I would like to get the wrinkles out too, but I'm pretty sure flat ironing them is not recommended. And yeah, and there's nothing like trying to have a conversation. Like, this is worse than the dentist office. Because, at least in the dentist office, they're just looking at your gross teeth. Look, feet and teeth, just ick for me. That being said, I'm glad there are dentists who like teeth and, podiatrists who like feet. Often mixed up with proctologists who do not do feet. Or if you find a proctologist that is interested in your feet, run. That being said, this is what you guys are pretty much in for today. So I'm, doing this, trying to relax. And she's like, okay, now we're just going to take 9 more pictures. And I was like, so I kind of told her I wanted some of the pictures for my screenshots, because if you just blow them up and they're in black and white, they kind of look like a nebula. And I was like, it could be the nebula of memories. It could be Mo's nebula. To be fair, I'm the kind of person that would definitely put my mammogram as my screensaver. Not for any like intrinsic egotistical thing. I'd just be like, ooh, it kind of looks like a cool abstract thing. And when people ask, I could just say, that's my boob. That being said, I might create an OnlyFans of that now that I'm thinking about it. Do have 6 children to put through college, and $20 is $20. And Etsy shops, nebulas of Moe's boobs. Just boob art nebula. I mean, I have all these ideas. But that being said, so I get all of these, and then because I might be the most odd hypochondriac in the entire world in that, and I understand that therapists would have a field day with my ridiculous behind. Like, they're already up to the DSM-17 with my ass. Anywho, I will actively ignore the fact that I was feeling lightheaded and increasingly dizzy for 6 months. But then, quickly after I get a mammogram, look up what normal mammograms are supposed to look like, just on the off chance. So my husband's like, so you actively ignore your actual health issues, but Google stuff that's way, way crazy. Now, that being said, I never have an explanation for these things. Mr. Moe's just kind of like, okay, we're good. That being said, that was the mammogram mess. I look, and I will tell y'all this. If you need a mammogram, go get one. The lady was super sweet. It's just weird to try to, again, have like, oh, how you doing? How are the kids? As someone's like smushing and fondling and ironing out your boobs so there's no wrinkles. I mean, it's weird. It's weird, that kind of thing. So it's just like, she was sweet as pie. That wasn't the issue. It's just, again, like when you're standing here hunching in and like you're in a vice and they're like, how you doing? Are you okay? And I'm like, you are smushing me for no reason. And why can't we figure out a better test? That being said, I have like a couple days and then they'll read the results and tell me what my nebula boobs mean. Who knows? I mean, between Stephen Hawking's and Einstein, minus the cousin love, I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out. We'll get Neil deGrasse Tyson on it, and Bill Nye's not doing anything with his mechanical engineering degree other than, well, proselytizing now. So I'm kind of good with that. And honestly, yeah, the squunching happened, and I would like to say that squunching hurts. So don't squunch anything. Squunching, unintentional squunching, or real squunching is not good and should be avoided. So Mr. Moe and I were both like, we were thinking about maybe going out to eat, but I decided that I was just exhausted and I was going to go lay down. Now, I don't know if there are storm fronts, if Mercury's in retrograde, or what in the actual hell yesterday happened, because from like noon to 2, I was great. Like, I wasn't having a terrible day. I was doing my thing, which happens to be attempting to work and then effing on off to do cross stitch, which is why I'm hoping the craft channel works, because I do find myself not editing and effing off to do cross stitch a lot here lately. That being said, when Mr. Moe gets back, I will show you how far I have gotten on the Star Wars one, because I am productive in my crafting, which, helps because I feel like I'm doing something productive. Now, that being said, so I was doing that, and Mr. Moe and I were trying to plan dinner, and we were hanging out before the kids get home, because I don't know about y'all, but Mr. Mo and I have become teenagers again, or we're actually finally dating after 14 years of marriage. I can't quite figure out in what season we are in because I will say it's been a big change. Like, he's like, "Oh, when are we going for your doctor's appointment?" When I've always just taken myself out and like gone out. Let's see. Yeah, that's sort of like it, but it's black and white. I mean, I don't even know if I was looking at my boob, to be really honest with you. I might have been looking at some other random person's boobs. And if so, they looked really nebula-like. And I didn't see her name, so you're safe. Your boob nebula is safe with me. That being said. So, you know, I'm having to shuffle around because I've always kind of just, for like, the first 13 years of our marriage, 12 years of our marriage, uh, you know, he was at work and I would just like go grocery shopping alone. Or so I'm getting used to this whole like I have another person with me all the time because I wasn't particularly expecting him to want to go to, the squunching of the tatas. I just didn't expect it, you know. So that being said, we were hanging out in the afternoon and well, cross stitch talk. And I was just doing cross stitch, and Mr. Mo hates, and I do mean hates, my recent addiction to these Reddit AI voice streams. Look, they are just essentially like cotton candy junk food for my brain since most of the time I'm watching history things or news things. I love, love, love these Reddit things where the AI can't say grenade or doesn't understand, that a bow is not a bow. That being said, I love it. Like little things like that for some reason just, help me. And it's just a classic, like, one-dimensional story that I don't have to read anything to. It's not as dumb as Jane is bad guy, Dan is good guy. So it's not, to the level of, thinking enthusiast like Donna Adelson being the mastermind of a crime, which I still say in a flock of thinking enthusiasts, can you really have a leader? Is my big thing. I don't think anyone was a mastermind in that because that would imply by the nomenclature that anyone in that conspiracy had a brain. And I think we all know that they didn't. That being said, I don't know where I was with that one, but there you go. No one is, these are thinking enthusiasts. But I like the stories because they're, one dimensional. They don't have like intrigue. It's not like it's not like you're listening to Lord of the Rings where you actually have to pay attention, but it's not, see Jane be bitch. Bitch is bad. It's a little bit up from there, but doesn't require me to really think about much stuff. So he hates those. So usually I have an earbud in, and Mr. Mo has learned, that if I'm listening to something, I generally will not be paying attention to him. Uh, and I can tell usually when I'm starting to get a flare or if it's going to be a bad night, because I will notice that it's very hard for me to deal with outside noises because for as long as my kids have been alive, and especially the youngest, most feral, so about 10 years now, I have learned to live with just one earbud so I can listen to my stuff and then listen to the children, to make sure things aren't on fire or, they aren't planning to overtake a, small country, things like that. Making sure they haven't, started a Lord of the Flies, encampment in the backyard. That being said, I am pretty used to that. So generally having outside noise doesn't bother me, but my husband is still looking at jewel cutting. I don't know. It's a hobby where you cut stones into jewels. I have no idea. It seems like a lot of math to me, but apparently, in all things weird, Mr. Mo likes math. I mean, that being said, I love that there are people out there that, can fly planes and like understand directions because Lord knows I can't. But it sounds horrible. It sounds utterly soul crushing to have to think about numbers and angles and geometry. No, just no. And I understand that this is completely just because we're different type of people. And I'm glad people have those skills because God knows I don't, nor would, I ever have them. It's not like something I would learn to love. No, this is something I know I won't love. It's like some people like doing accounting, and I'm like, I would go crazy. MLS, well, we all like what we like. So we're just hanging out, and I start to notice last night that, I couldn't, I didn't want to hear his grinding noises. So I kind of was like, okay, honey, I love you. What if I turn off my Reddit, drama streams that you hate and we watch something else? Now, it was about this time that I decided to, start taking maybe a little something to help knock the edge off because I knew this was going to be a pretty bad night. My feet were already kind of doing their weird turn-in thing. So I was like, I'm going to get ahead of this, which is a good idea, but not so good when you're watching Mayday air disasters and you're giggling hysterically. That being said, I might watch one of those and stream it and just with my asides, not ones where people pass away, but ones where everyone lands safe. Because, okay, there is a reason I love Mayday air disasters on a hilarity level. Now, follow me with this. If you were raised in the early 90s, you guys remember Rescue 911 with Robert Stack. Usually right before, Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack. But my favorite part of Rescue 911, even the Mo was strong with me from the get-go. My favorite part of Rescue 911 as a child was watching the very thin mom, running out in the unfortunate 90s mom jeans, to help the paramedics. And, she still had the unfortunate 90s hair and everything, but she was a slender woman, generally symmetrical facial features, no lazy eyes, no moles everywhere. And you would get all the way to the end of the little enactment. And then you get to the real people who done called 911. And somewhere between casting and reality, the Matrix glitched because, Rhonda from the, enactment is, like 110 pounds, generally looks like she wasn't raised near Fukushima with radiation. And then, well, a real Hoosier from Indiana is shown at the end with what really these people look like. And it was nothing like the, person shown. So that was my favorite part of Rescue 911. And my mom might have realized the dark humor in me early because she's like, you're not supposed to be laughing at that. And I'm like, Mom, this chick looks like she needs to be, chair lifted out of her house by a forklift, and they had some, Meredith Baxter Burney chick running, this is hilarious. This is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And she's like, they were having a medical emergency. It's not funny. And I'm like, no, this is hilarious. That being said, the Mo was always strong in me. So So Mr. Mo, having knowing my proclivity for the dark humor, is like, why must you laugh at these things? And I'm like, husband, look at the pilots that they have here, and then look at the pilots who they really are. This is freaking hilarious. It's like casting didn't even pay attention. They're like, oh, pilot, we're gonna make him look like, John Malkovich, not Mr. Magoo. Sure. So that being said, I'm listening to that, and he's like, why do you watch these? And because I realized that therapists would have a field day with me, I do like to self-diagnose because I don't trust therapists. And if you guys want to know why I don't trust therapists, uh, any sort of recent psychology graduate that you see on TikTok or X, that's the reason I don't trust therapy, okay? Look, I have no problem if you want to, have a psychology major with a minor in underwater indigenous basket weaving. That's fine. But I mean, for me, I'll just try to self-diagnose because at least I'm the crazy I know. So I do like that at the end of the show, the NTSB usually figures out a reason for what the problem is and that things get solved. It's almost like it's like watching a federal governmental agency do what they're supposed to do. It's a freaking unicorn in real life. So I love it. I love, the look, I don't understand any of the mathology. I mean, I'm gonna be real honest with you. The bright colors and the very, very bad CGI are enough for me to understand the basic Scientology, but never will I understand half the things they're talking about. That, and, oh, Captain Kern, I'm sorry. In reality, when people are, trapped in their own bodies, it's really sad. And to lose kind of function of your body is really, really sad. So that being said, it's just kind of, I like that there's always an answer. Sometimes if you watch true crime, it's like, if you watch those body cams, which I love body cam footage, I'm probably going to be starting to do some live streams with those. But it's always frustrating. Like I end up getting more pissed off because the justice system, it's like eluding police at 100 miles per hour, signed out with a $1,000 bond. Like I find myself becoming more black-pilled, so then I watch airplane crashes to feel better. As I have said, therapists would have a field day with me. That being said, Mr. Mo, went off to get the boys. I was cherishing the last 30 minutes of quiet that happens in my house on a daily basis. And all of a sudden, it started really picking up wind last night, and we had like this pop-up really aggressive storm, and then the front moved out. Now, I don't know if it was because of the speed of the front. I'm not a meteorologist. I don't know if there was enough rain to track a cat, mostly because I didn't get out of bed after that. That being said, I went from, this is a normal, 5-7 day, like pain scale wise. Those are kind of my normal numbers. I never drop below a 5. So 5 kind of feels like normal. Where at 5 to 7 kind of I function through. I've figured out how to function. That kind of is my baseline normal. So last night I hadn't realized, that there were fronts going through and things like that, until I tried to get up to use the restroom because, you do need to do that once in a while, especially when you have chronic dry mouth because of your medications that you have to take. So this should not be a terribly difficult thing to do. I am able to, in fact, utilize the facilities in my house quite well, semi-regularly. Given that I might have to hop or, limp, I can still do it. Well, last night was the first night in the history of ever that I physically could not tolerate putting my foot down. And I didn't realize this until I was far away from my cell phone and basically balancing on one leg between like this Tupperware tower and nothing. So basically, and then because Mr. Mo has soundproofed my room because my children were born clinically without an inside voice, I think. Mr. Mo has done his damnedest, like getting a solid wood door and everything, which is great in theory until you are trying to get someone to pay attention to your ridiculous behind. So as I'm sitting here, trying to yell for my husband, or in fact, possibly mind connect with one of the cats to go find my husband, which is something I did try to do because why wouldn't I? And then, yeah, so, and my cell phone was mere steps away, but I don't know if you've ever tried to jump when your foot feels like it's dipped in gasoline and freeze burning and torqued one way, but I don't have coordination on good days. So add, one-legged hopping that I can't even do sober on a bad day. So this goes on for about 10 minutes. To maybe 15 minutes, or at least that's what it felt. It felt like 3 days, if I'm honest with you. I was like, this is what I get. This is God's karma for me laughing so hard about that woman, from the Life Alert commercial. Like, I've fallen and I can't get up. I was like, this is God's retribution for me just making too much fun of that commercial when I was younger. This is how God humbles me. Because so then finally after an interminable amount of time, but not a long enough time that I haven't realized that should I die here on the floor of my room, I will from beyond the grave lead an army of zombie Furbys out of landfills to wreak retribution on people. Because priorities, I was just like, what would be the strangest thing I would do if I die in this particular situation and had the powers to haunt people in the afterlife? Because, maybe Beetlejuice is real. That being said, what I came up with was zombie Furbys. I was like, because them things are freaking terrifying. Like, I don't really much worry about Skynet because that's a quick, painless annihilation of humanity. We basically get nuked and that's what happens. You imagine zombie Furbys? I mean, like, you just put the baby down to sleep and then I'm just saying that would terrify the ever-living shit out of me. Like you're walking down a dark alley and all of a sudden you see the glowing eyes of the Furby. And then more eyes start popping out. Forget Chucky. It's the zombie Furbys that are going to scare the hell out of me. So finally, I'm able to get a hold of one of my kids, and they're like, and I am past the point of being logical, but I try not to yell at my kids for being normal kids. And I'm trying, that voice that moms get when, there's something going on, but you're trying to cover it up. But you're like, go find your father now. And I love my oldest son, but he lives in the perpetual 13-year-old obliviousness that is normal for a 13-year-old. So he's like, is dad home? Do I have a father? Where is my father? And then he asks me, he's like, Mom, do you know where dad is? I was like, no, son, I sent you to I sent you to go find your father. So if I'm asking for your father, I don't know. Oh, so do you want me to find him? That would be helpful. Yes. Could you go find your father? Mom, and then he comes back to the door because my door is shut right now. And he's like, Mom, are you sure he's not in there with you? And I'm like, did I misplace a 6'4", 220-pound man anywhere in my room currently while I'm balancing on, Tupperware? I look around my room just to do a quick Carmen Sandiego / Where's Waldo check. Now, I was not willing to, indulge in my sarcasm enough to look under the bed because at that point I wasn't sure if I was going to be getting back up, but I was like, no, he's not here. So finally, Mr. Mo was found. And he's like, okay, how can we help? And finally, we ended up getting one of my old office chairs. Unfortunately, my house was built state of the art 1971 when, high fructose corn syrup wasn't the main export of Indiana. That being said, all that is to say that the doors are quite narrow. So we got like all the way to the restroom, and then he's like, okay, how are we going to do this? Now, I will say that I have deflated from semi-fluffy to, more svelte in the last little bit, but still not at the level where I think Mr. Mo's back should try the officer and a gentleman kind of thing, just for funsies. And besides, if I was going to reenactimate something from a movie, it would be, Dirty Dancing, the Swan Lift. If I was going to, take part in any such physical shenanigans. That being said, we ended up somewhat him helping me hopping. And I looked at him in full seriousness and I said, I shouldn't have thrown away those roller skates because I could have just put a roller skate on and you could have pushed me. And he looked at me because I said this in all seriousness, because at that point I figured out a way to MacGyver myself out of possibly getting a wheelchair for days like this. And he's like, let me get this straight. You struggle with gravity on good days, and you think that it's a good idea to have you strap on one roller skate and have me or the smallest, youngest, most feral child just push you if you need help, or for you to scoot yourself along, by yourself with little ski poles. And I said, it does seem like a very logical decision. Until I get my mini emotional support ass, which he's still not very keen on. I have tried to make it work. I have given the option of a mini Highland cow instead. Again, not apparently working out with his logic kind of brain. I think it would be great. He is not so keen on it, but we're working out the logistics, meaning I'll probably get a stuffed Highland cow that I make a vest for and then a stuffed donkey and just take it out with me when I want to be ridiculous. That being said, if you do suffer from social anxiety, the way I deal with it, is that I just pretend I'm on a comedy bit the entire time. As I've already said many times, therapist would have a field day with me. That being said, Mr. Mo is not so keen on the cross-country skiing pole, roller skate, adaptive equipment. Pretty sure I can make it work. I am going to have a TED Talk, I'm sure. So we figure this out, and I'm trying to really sell him on finding just one roller skate. I mean, I'm sure a Goodwill somewhere has one. And he's like, I am not even going to entertain this with you right now. I know it is. Look, between me and Franklin Roosevelt, the only thing we have in common is the inability we have to admit that we need adaptive equipment. But we need to find maybe a narrower wheelchair. That being said, that has never happened to me in the nearly 4.5 years that I've had CRPS. That I physically could not tolerate even touching my foot to the ground. So, it is one of those things where I joke. Obviously, I am not going to be getting a roller skate, although my stubborn and I do not need adaptive equipment mind is all for it. Is probably not the greatest idea. That being said, I think it would be hilarious if I got my own little handicap, like just, a roller skate with a little handicap sign on it. The handy roller. It's my super. It's also a single entendre, which I love. And Squid has started a new channel about occupational therapy that actually does give you really good advice that isn't putting wheels on skis and or anything else that I try to MacGyver myself. So please go to her for actual good information and things like that. That being said, for me, coming to me for any actual good advice is just about a bad idea as you can get. That being said, my youngest, most feral son comes in during this time and he's like, Mom. And I was like, what? And he's like, have you ever thought about getting a scooter for... And I was like, yeah, that's what I need, a razor scooter. So leave it to youngest, most feral to add just a scooter, like a racer scooter that I can just pop out when I'm having a bad leg day, forgetting that I need to stand on the stable foot and then push with a stable foot. There's no way I basically would be. And then he said, do you know? And I was like, no. And having your youngest, most feral child saying, Mom, do you know? Is basically a reverse hostage situation. You don't know what's coming down the pike. It is like when, like being a cop on, a routine ticket, stop. It could go hella crazy. Like we have a routine here. We have established protocols, but shit could go sideways very, very quickly. And he said, Mom. And I was like, son. Because at least I was glad to not be called bruh at the moment. And he said, Dad's gonna sweat on the pipes tomorrow or today. So this was last night. And I said, I know that means something technical, but I don't think he's actually gonna sweat on them. And he said, no. Dad said he was going to sweat on the pipes. That is gross. How are we going to get water without sweat in it for our showers? Now, mind you, this is the child that has to be reminded to a multifunctional shower, checklist. That first, to take a shower, one must be in said shower enclosure with the water running and actually hitting your body. Then you must actually use soap on said body while in the shower area and, using, actual soap. Then you have to wash your hair with shampoo and conditioner. Then turn off the water, use a towel. Do not just, shake off like a puppy or, a Bigfoot. And, generally pick up after yourself. So this is a child that needs a step checklist to make sure that taking a shower isn't standing somewhere adjacent to running water while being on your iPad. But he was like, there's going to be sweat in our water, and that is gross. Now, to be fair, I have as much plumbing knowledge as I have less plumbing knowledge than Mario from Super Mario Brothers. At least he's a plumber. That being said, I have no idea what sweating pipes was, so I actually had to look at Mr. Mo this morning, and I was like, I'm guessing that sweating pipes has nothing to do with, actually applying sweat. And he's like, that's where you use glue to put the pipes together. And I was like, why wouldn't you just call it lay-in pipe? Because again, single entendre, and I thought it was hilarious. And he was like, no, it's just what they called. And I was like, okay, sounds fun. But then he noticed that apparently our house was made with not the white PVC pipe, but there's a different kind of... I had no idea that there was this many steps to this crap. I'm just like, may God have mercy on your soul, because I will not be able to help you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. PEX. Yeah. And I had no idea. I was like, did the hill chuck steal all the copper? What was going on here? So, and I was making, just all the comments. I was like, well, I've always wanted to try different pipes. And he's like, there is a reason I don't take you to Lowe's. And I was like, no one wants to go to Lowe's unless you're making fun of stuff. And he's like, people go there to actually, like get stuff for home improvement. I'm like, you're the only one that forces me to come here. The only time I want to go to Lowe's is when we're picking out new, like paint colors. Anything else, I'm like, there's not even groceries here. I mean, at least Menards has a grocery store. Like, at least Menards, I can go and look at, a bunch of different sodas or their tiny book section or their little, health and beauty section. And I can pretend I'm not in a boring house construction, place. Because honestly, they're just boring to me, and Mr. Mo likes to wander. And I'm just like, we came in here for this, and this, and I'm out. I want to be done. This is not my jam. This is not my store. And he's just like wandering, and I'm like, no, I don't need to wander. Let's go. I love Menards, though. I will say I love me some Menards because they've got all this stuff. The only thing I hate about Menards is when they have that rebate thing. And like the rest of, hot mess Americans, I cannot remember my receipt and the rebate thing and to send it in. That's a whole lot of lazy that I accomplish in one single Menards visit. And Tammy, I would hide in the garden center, but Mr. Mo's the one that does green things. Look, I keep children alive, and I'm semi-successful in that. I'm not adding plants. I like fake plants and, maybe some succulents at some point, but I have nurtured the hell out of 6 biological children, and I'm still doing that to the best of my current adultish abilities. So I will say that Mr. Mo is the guy that does all our landscaping. He's the guy that does the plants. I say he's a dendrophiliac, which means he has certain proclivities towards trees, which is my insult. That being said, he is just more of the keeping plants alive kind of person. Like, he has plants that he puts outside in the summer and then brings in the winter. I don't get it. It makes him happy, but I'm like, it's the outside. It's the, like when he came in saying that we needed to get this special rake to flatten the grass, I was like, it's the ground isn't flat, it's the outside. And he's like, no, I need to level the lawn so it looks nice. And I'm like, it's the ground. I'm Again, he likes having the yard look nice. It is his jam. Just like he doesn't understand why I can, spend 3 hours making a weird, demonic Hank Brennan puppet, and that tomorrow, if I'm feeling better, I'm going to be spending time making the Kahunti Locks puppet. He doesn't get all of my things. I don't get all of his things, but we can have fun together. That being said, I will say that finding ways to amuse yourself is never something that I've struggled with. So when I went to like the gem and mineral show with him last week, I decided to play a really fun game. So if you are ever at a rock and mineral show and or craft fair and it might not be your jam, Orifice or Extraction is always a fun game to play. I did make it up last Friday. So here's the general way you play this. If you are at a place where you really aren't going to have fun and maybe there's a lot of little doodads around, or a Lowe's, you just maybe notice everything that looks like possibly an orifice or a body part, and then imagine which items that ER doctors are going to have to extract one day. And it becomes funny. It becomes the most hilarious time you will ever have anywhere. That being said, you do have to worry about hysterically laughing like I did at one booth when I saw a large squarish pagoda carved out of something. I don't think it was jade, but some kind of rock. Look, I'm not a rockologist. I'm not a geologist, and this isn't really my jam. That being said, I did imagine an ER doctor coming out with that. Mr. Mo was like, what is so damn funny? And I tried to explain to him what I'd been doing the entire mineral show. And he's like, I cannot. He's like, I wish I could say I was shocked, but this sounds like something you would do. And I was like, yeah, and it's fun. So I would start pointing out the different things to Mr. Mo that I found funny. And he was like, I can't go to a mineral show again now. And I was like, no, now we go to all of them because this is hilarious. I've found my new hobby. He's like, so your hobby is going to places and making fun of them. And I was like, it's like you don't know me. It's like you're a new hire, sir. Get with the program. They did have these little earrings that were supposed to, by God, Wicca, and Harry Potter magic, for some reason, give you motivation based on the little crystals they had put together. And I did want a couple of those, but I realized to deal with all of my personality deficiencies, I'd have to wear about 27 pairs of earrings to finally make me stable. And I just don't know if that's going to really be appealing. Also, rock and mineral shows are a great place to see a lot of people with dreadlocks that you would never imagine. I even saw 3 ginger dreads. I kid you not. It was the most spectacular, like, unicorn sighting ever. If you're a people watcher, I recommend going to mineral and rock shows, playing Orifice or Extraction, and having a grand old time. You don't even need to buy anything. Like, for $4, you get into this joint where you basically have like a human zoo. It's amazing. And I mean no disrespect, but I had a grand time. It might not have been my jam, but I was definitely having a hilarious time. Because, that's kind of what I do when I go out anywhere, because I am a bit of a spaz. I am an inside cat that doesn't know how to human properly. So I just decide to make people laugh or pretend things are in my own internal game. So that's kind of what I did. And he's like, I'm not shocked. And then he's like, I don't think I'm going to be taking you with me and the boys uh, to the Lizard Expo. And I was like, oh no, 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 no. I will not be going to the Lizard Expo. That's a line too far. Then playing Orifice and Extraction gets scary because look, I get that some people love reptiles. I get it, and I have no problem with it. But they're scary to me. I don't like them. I don't like if I were to get any exotic animal, it'd probably be an octopus, to be real with you, or a mini Highland cow, like, or a liger. An emotional support liger. No one would try to corner me into small talk in Walmart. I might be in touch with the Tiger King here soon. I mean, Mo going to casually into Walmart with, a liger. Oh my gosh, you guys, I offended. So, you know how I tell you all, as a non-peopling people person, that I try to give people compliments as a way to, increase my people ability or something. It's just a goal I have to try to be less spazzy. Anywho, I was walking along in Walmart, as you do, minding my own business until I see a man on an electric scooter with a t-shirt of a chihuahua that says Cricket's proud dad. Now, I was assuming Cricket was a boy because his wife is apparently in the cart following him with, Cricket, the, bug-eyed chihuahua in the thing. And I'm just trying to compliment the dog. I'm just like, oh, that's cute with the t-shirt and Cricket. He's such a cute dog. The woman literally, now she didn't have pearls on, but clutched her décolleté like I had misgendered, her grandchild, okay? Like I had, basically taken, an American flag and peed on it, like right in front of her while singing My Country 'Tis of Thee or some shit. And she's like, it's a she. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I assumed it was a dog. You named your dog Cricket. What do you want from me? Okay. You're also, driving it around in a cart, which, look, if you have an honest to God service dog, I really don't have anything. And I love puppy kitten breaks all the same as anyone. But the fact that you are like, your husband is literally on the electric scooter machine, with the Cricket's Proud Dad t-shirt. You have Cricket in her own Louis Vuitton carry-on in rural Indiana, okay? With your curling set doing really fine for its 5th day in. I was like, okay, you know what, God? I tried to be nice. How dare I misgender the dog? And I'm walking away and she is still giving me like this dirty look. And I was just like, okay, next time I see you, I'm going to say, yo quiero Taco Bell, Cricket. I was like, how? How in the world can I get, someone so irritated at me for trying to be nice to their daggone dog? Again, I don't have a problem with you bringing your dogs in, but I really wish it was just service dogs. Because I don't understand this like Chihuahua dog thing going in there. That being said, you can... Mr. Mo and I like to cruise down the clearance aisle. I don't know if your particular Walmart has the clearance aisle, but we do. And you can always tell which stores are in the middle of maybe a paler bunch of people. Because every about quarter, the cosmetic section is cleared. And the and Mr. Mo was like, "Hey, come over here. They've got a bunch of makeup." And he knows that I'll get like slightly different foundation tones if I'm playing different characters. But I'm talking like a 2 or 3 level skip, not like a 15, 16 level shade difference. And he's like, "Oh, I don't think any of these are going to look appropriate." Because I was, and I know this about our local Walmart. So I was like, oh, find a shade that you think's kind of close to what I am, and we'll, get that. Because honestly, when you need to do different character stuff, I will just buy clearance makeup. And okay, so he's just looking in there, and I am going to make a Mofessional. Now, I have only recently learned how to do the war paint that is considered girling. And that's why I turned to the internet for the girl calculus of what, in fact, should I wear for the river dancing thing. But I have a question that I would like to raise to Girl Command and advertisers. Because I decided that I would like to look just a little bit tanner. Not like, golden goddess or anything, but tanner, because both of the dresses are light. And if you tend to be pale, if you don't have at least, some sort of tone to your skin, you can be really washed out by it. That being said, in all things, I am a chaos demon, but I took my time. So I would like to launch a girl calculus complaint. What in the actual mother effery is selfless tanner? Because I wore not, fully gloves, but I wore gloves. I did a full and complete layer on my legs. Like, I made sure that no spot was not covered. I look like a Cheeto zebra on my legs. I look like a MAGA zebra. So I have a question. Who was the sadist asshole that decided to traumatize women by telling us that we could look like we had sun at home when you end up looking like you've been attacked by sun leprosy? Because that is some mental distress and emotional damage, and we need a class action lawsuit. Because I am done with this. I would like to say it is not in my personality to be detail-oriented and to take my time on anything. But I sat there for 10 and 15 minutes making sure every single inch was covered. Like, I made sure, there, and then I stood up for 10 minutes so it could all absorb and do its tanning magic. I looked like someone with severe glaucoma after a special brownie did a Jackson Pollock paint, motif on my legs. And Mr. Mo is like, what were you attempting to achieve? And I was like, well, I was going to look like I had a tan, and this bottle said if I applied it evenly and let it absorb, I would have a no fuss, no muss, and no skin cancer tan. So I was doing this, and it's from Jergens, so I thought they knew what they were doing in the lotion department. I mean, as evidenced by a bunch of preteen boys and apparently, humanity. I thought that we had figured this shit out. It is 2025. I was told I would have a jetpack, a flying car, a robot nanny, and all we have are Roombas who spread cat poo around and, e-scooters. So I would like to say that the future I was promised was lied to me about, and y'all smart people, y'all conglomerates couldn't even give me a selfless tanner that does what it's supposed to do on the bottle. That's it. American women, we are rising up. We were promised jetpacks. We were promised robot maids like Rosie. And we were promised food in pill form. And, to be fair, we did get Ozempic. So, it's better than Olestra chips when those first came out. But I would like to say that girl calculus is some effery, and I didn't realize so much went into being a girl. That being said, if I do ever want to try sunless tanner again, I'm going to have someone else go to a place where they spray you and someone knows what they're doing. Because obviously I cannot be trusted with selfless tanner. And I was just, Mr. Mo was like, well, I mean, he's like, look, I'm married to you and I still find your legs hot. They just look kind of abstracty now. Now, bless his heart, he's trying to help, but abstracty is maybe not a compliment your wife wants to hear. Like, if you squint and look into the sun, you look just like Halle Berry. Might be a start to a Snapped episode is all I got to say. Because I was like, well, thank you, dear. I appreciate that you still find me contractually, attractive, but maybe abstracty isn't, the right word that you should say. And he's like, look, there's no nice way to say you look ridiculous. And I was like, no, I can see my own legs. I agree with you. It does look ridiculous, but I don't have the energy nor the motivation, as I rarely show my legs to anyone, to spend hours doing the exfoliation that would require but would be required to, undye my legs. I'm like, we're moving into fall. It's pumpkin spice latte time. You should be glad I'm still shaving. I mean, it is the Midwest. We are entering, our Sasquatch era. If you don't live in the Midwest, there may be seasons where women, just because they're always wearing leggings or things like that, don't shave. Now, I've never been one of them. Although I did have one summer when youngest most feral was first born that I didn't realize collectively the entire summer that every single survival shower that I was taking, I only got one armpit. So I looked conservative on one side and Lilith fair on the other. And Mr. Mo, my loving, observant husband, had noticed this situation going on for, the entire summer. And only when I noticed at the end of summer, when youngest most feral started sleeping, longer than 2 hours, did I notice that I had gone full Lilith fair on one side and, MAGA on the other. And he's like, yeah, I wondered when you were I didn't know if it was a trend you were doing. And I was like, sweetheart, what trend have I ever followed, let alone done? I don't have Stanley Cups. I don't have LuLaRoe. I don't have Vera Bradley. I don't have Louis Vuitton. I don't want a Michael Kors purse. When have I ever actually followed a trend that wasn't, Sailor Moon cosplay? And he was like, I don't know, but I didn't want to ask a question in case I hurt your feelings. And I was like, no, sweetheart, in the event that next time I'm so sleep deprived that I completely forget for a summer to, shave my armpits and or don't have the time because I am nurturing a small child and just got done building said small child in my body, it would be appropriate to tell me that I haven't been shaving one armpit. And he's like, I don't know. It's like when women ask if their butt looks big. I don't know. And I was like, no, you have, you have my permission to ask me if I haven't shaved my armpit due to brain fog. And he's like, okay, yeah, because I was wondering why you were doing that. And I was like, no, it wasn't a conscious choice. I just have, 3 small boyish children and 3, school-aged daughters, and I'm trying to function. Okay, so no, it wasn't a fashion trend. I wasn't trying to figure out the pros and cons of becoming European. I was simply, functioning as well as I could. That being said, I am probably going to get off of here because my energy is fading, but let me see who I can send you guys over to. And leave you with one final story because I talk a lot about youngest most feral, but my youngest daughter was a hoot and a half. So our final story for today is when my youngest daughter was young, and she was the one that started the Godzilla trend in our family. My youngest daughter loved Godzilla, loved him. She had all the toys for her fourth birthday. I think we got her a bunch of Godzilla toys. It was her favorite movie, not the one with Matthew Broderick, but the newer ones. So we were watching them when we were four, and it just happened to be during a time when my dad and stepmom were visiting, and we were watching her favorite movie because it's Godzilla. And I was just glad it wasn't animated or frozen again. To be fair, I was just glad it wasn't frozen. That being said, I realized that Frozen might have been a safer choice when she proceeded to look at my dad, and they were, I have to lay the groundwork for this a little bit. We were watching the movie, and my youngest daughter was like, I hate those monsters. Now, if you remember the Mutos from the newer movies, the first one, they did look like what my daughter called cockroaches. So she decided to make her own Moism. And these are one of those times that no one prepares you for when you're a parent, when your child will say something that is equivalent to the funniest thing you have ever in context heard in your life. But because it is inappropriate, you cannot laugh or respond. Otherwise, they will know that that it's something funny and they will try to say it again. So she looks my dad dead in the eyes and she says, I hate those cock monsters. And I'm over here trying to not snort laugh into oblivion. And at this time, I was very heavily pregnant with a middle feral boy child. So alternately not trying to pee on myself because this might be the funniest thing I've ever effing heard. And then I realized, oh crap, I co-parent. So I legitimately had to make this call. Hey, Nola's dad. Hey, if she happens to say something, I kind of want to explain it. And he's like, yeah, okay. And I was like, well, so you know how she likes Godzilla? And he's like, okay. And you know how she thinks the monsters look like cockroaches? And he's like, yes. And this man is a very good dad, but he might not, he has no idea where this conversation is going, whereas I am already trying to stifle my laughter so I'm like, so we were watching a movie and she said a term, and I just want to explain to you that the movie we were watching was in fact Godzilla. And he's like, well, what was the term? And I was like, well, it was cock monster. And he's like, she did what? And I was like, because she said they're cockroaches and they're monsters. And I just wanted to assure you that we're not watching The Hub with our, young impressionable child. She was in fact watching, Godzilla. And he's like, oh, that's embarrassing. I was like, only in my world would I have to do co-parenting in which I explained why my 4-year-old said a term that would more likely be said, in San Francisco during Pride Month. But that's why she was my favorite for a little bit. That being said, thank you guys for indulging me with a bit of just a story time. Honestly, I just didn't, I knew that if we didn't have a story time that we weren't going to be doing any streams. I am going to be rescheduling for next week, the Wednesday evening stream. As much as I joke and laugh, last night kicked my behind, and I am exhausted. So I am going to get some rest, probably work on my cross stitch, and get some rest. Nothing too glamorous for today. I might, feel froggy, shave both armpits. I mean, it's a banner kind of day, but that's basically what I'll be doing. Have a wonderful day. Remember to be kind to yourself, kind to others, but have a sassy mouth and carry a can of bitch fire because you never know who you're going to offend by misgendering their damn dog. Bye, you guys.